everyone, and welcome to Storytime with Mr. Ryan. Today we're going to be reading Strange Fruit, Billie Holiday and the Power of a Protest Song by Gary Golio with illustrations by Charlotte Riley Webb. Today we're going to be learning all about the life of legendary black jazz musician Billie Holiday and her fight against racism, segregation, and oppression in its many forms. Today we'll be discussing some pretty heavy topics, including racism and segregation, just as a little warning before we start the story. Let's hop on in, shall we? October 1938, New York City. This time, Billie had had enough. Sure, she was grateful for her incredible singing voice. Grateful, at 23, to have worked with some of the finest jazz musicians in the country. Grateful for a few hit records that made her more well-known and able to get better jobs. And grateful to Artie Shaw for hiring her as one of the first black singers to work in an all-white band. But then, everything changed. Billie was singing in New York City's famous Blue Room at the Hotel Lincoln. First, the staff told her not to talk with the customers. Then they said she couldn't walk around by herself because someone might think that black people were staying at the hotel. She even had to use the serviced elevator so guests wouldn't see her, and walk through the kitchen to get to the stage. Worst of all, she was being kept upstairs in a small room before showtime so she wouldn't cause any trouble. Why? Because Billie was furious, and she blamed Artie for not taking her side. Enough had finally become too much, so she quit. Billie had already seen more than her share of hard times. As a baby, she'd been left with an older half-sister by her mother, who was gone for years. At 10, she ended up in a reform school for colored girls, all because of a terrible thing done to her. And when she finally moved to New York City to be with her mother, they were both arrested and Billie sent to jail. She was only 14. Those early years were rough, but what kept her going was music, and especially a love of jazz. All she wanted to do was sing. Billie wasn't going to scrub floors like her mother. She had a plan to be somebody. Jobs in small cafes led to work in nightclubs around New York City. In one place, the audience loved Billie's voice so much they threw money right onto the floor. It was a bright beginning. At just 15, Billie was hired at a popular Harlem music club. Moving from table to table, she began singing each song differently every time. Listening to the trumpet and the saxophone, she started improvising, using her voice to play with the melody and lyrics. She was going beyond words and, like the other musicians, her singing had more to say than just notes on the page. This was the heart of jazz. Now, those who heard her said she sounded like nobody else, but being in the spotlight wasn't easy. Light-skinned Billie once had to put on dark makeup because she looked too white for an all-black band. Another time, white bandmates painted a red dot on her forehead to make her look like a woman from India, just so she could stay at the same hotel with them instead of sleeping on the tour bus. Laws separating whites and blacks made things tough for Billie wherever she went. In some places, she might have been killed for even standing next to a white person, on stage or off. She dreamed of having a place to work where she could perform with anyone she wanted and everyone could listen to her sing. 2 months later, after leaving Artie's band, Billie got her wish. In December of 1938, an unusual new club was set to open in New York City. It was the creation of Barney Josephson, a one-time shoe salesman from New Jersey. Barney had visited Harlem's famous Cotton Club, where the greatest black entertainers in the country performed. He loved the noise and excitement as much as the music. What he didn't love was that black people weren't allowed to sit at the tables or to be customers at all. Here in the middle of a black neighborhood was a club meant only for white people. This didn't seem right to Barney, and he decided to do something about it. So, on the night before New Year's Eve, Barney opened his own club in Greenwich Village called Cafe Society. And not only was it open to black customers, but it gave them the best seats in the house. Now, black people could see white and black performers from the front of the club closest to the stage. There was nothing like it, not in New York City, and maybe not in the whole country. Early on, Barney had asked Billie to sing at Cafe Society and hired top-notch musicians to back her up. She and the club became an immediate success. Then Barney got a visit from Abel Meeropol, a high school teacher and songwriter. The son of Jewish immigrants, Abel was outraged by the ongoing racism and violence against American Negroes. Haunted for days by a photo he'd seen, he took up his pen and wrote something called Strange Fruit. It was a song about lynching. When Billie first heard Abel sing Strange Fruit for her, she was unimpressed. The song wasn't jazz, and it wasn't really blues. And what did the word pastoral mean anyway? But Barney thought the song was important, and Billie believed in what Cafe Society stood for. She agreed to try out the song, if only as a favor to Barney. Studying the words, Billie thought about her father, a jazz musician who died after being turned away from a whites-only hospital. But what would other people make of the song? At a party in Harlem, Billie sang Strange Fruit, her voice with Abel's words. Everyone in the apartment became quiet, and the smiles left their faces. Billie had her answer. At the club, Barney told Billie that Strange Fruit would be the last song in her set, with no encores to follow. When it was over, she'd quietly leave the stage. That night, waiters froze in place. People stopped talking, and the room was dimmed to near darkness. Southern trees bear a strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood at the root. Some people in the audience looked uncomfortable or just confused. Why was there blood on the leaves of a tree? What exactly was the song about? A few people nearly got up from their seats and left. As Billie continued singing, her face became more expressive. At times, she looked tortured, angry, or sad. Her voice pierced the air. The last few words, about a strange and bitter crop, sounded more like a cry of pain. Then the spotlight went out, and Billie was gone. For a few moments, there was nothing but silence. Finally, one person slowly began clapping, followed by another, until the entire room exploded in applause as the audience rose to its feet. Backstage, Billie took a long, deep breath. From that day on, Strange Fruit would scorch the minds and hearts of those who heard it. Billie would be cursed, threatened, and assaulted for singing that song in clubs and concert halls throughout the country. She'd tell her worried mother that performing Strange Fruit might make things better, even though she knew that black people had been killed for less. "But you'll be dead," her mother said, to which Billie replied, "Yeah, but I'll feel it. I'll know it in my grave." Well, thank you all very much for joining me for this excellent story. Here I have the lyrics to Strange Fruit. I've put them on the side of the screen. You're welcome to take a moment and read this very powerful song. It does have some pretty deep and moving and graphic images, I will admit. However, it's a very important song, and I think you, the audience, would acknowledge it as a very important song too. I hope you guys enjoyed reading this wonderful story today, and I hope you guys learned a little bit about Billie Holiday, a truly wonderful and moving musician, and about the roots of jazz, a very powerful and moving type of music originating right here in America, right in Harlem, in New York City, at the beginning of the 20th century. Well, thank you all very much for reading along with me. I'm Mr. Ryan. Thanks for joining us. Please feel free to check out my other stories on this channel. If you're looking for some fun activities you can do right from home, go ahead and check out veronalibrary.org/children. Until next time, I'll be seeing you. Bye-bye.